Hey YouTube, my name is Shantae, and I wanted to have a discussion about the movie Us. Now, if you have not seen this movie, this is not a discussion for you. You won't understand what I'm talking about, and it will spoil the movie for you. I will not be going over the movie. I will be discussing it for people that already have seen the movie. So here we go. I wanted to talk about a theory that I had about the plot twist. We watched the movie, and at the end we learned that Adelaide was a tether, and that when she was a child, she switched herself with Red, and then she went up and continued to live Red's life as her own, and that was the plot twist that was given in the movie, and that was supposed to be for the shock and awe. But a lot of people did not get that there was a second plot twist. So I've watched a lot of YouTube channels already speak on a second hidden plot twist about Jason. The son Jason, is Jason a tether? And I'm in agreement that Jason is a tether. So there's a lot of YouTubes about it already, but I will still go over if some people do not understand. So okay. So the first clue for me, I did not get it initially the first time. Well, during the movie, but I realized at that end when Jason and Adelaide look at each other, and there's something there. So we can speculate that Jason was looking at Adelaide and like, is my mom a tether, or did Adelaide look at Jason like, is my son a tether? But I believe they both looked at each other in confirmation that, yeah, we are tethers, but hey, we made it. So after that, after me seeing that look, I started to rethink about the whole movie, and I definitely went and saw it again. So here are the clues that Jason was a tether, and I will try to go in order of how the movie played, and forgive me if I forget some of the clues. Okay, so Jason, let's start off in the car. Jason has a magic trick. It is like a little thing that he flicks on his hand, and it sparks. It is reminding you of a lighter. And this is his magic trick. And he flicks it during the whole movie. And so in this car scene, he's flicking it, he's flicking it, he's flicking it, and his sister is like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm trying to do my magic trick." And she's like, "Well, what does it do?" And he's like, "It sucks." And so but he continues to do it, and later on in the car scene, she was like, "Well, if you can't do it, can't you just tell us what it does so we can imagine with you?" And then he was like, "I don't remember." So that's a clue. The clue is, like, you have a magic trick, you don't know what it does, I mean, you don't know how to do it, and you can't even remember to tell your sister what it does. So that was a huge clue. Also, he was using language and words that they didn't teach him. So he said something about anus, and they was like, "Whoa!" And he used a couple curse words. So so that was clues. He had a different language, different words that they didn't teach him. So that was a clue. He had a mask on throughout the movie that he kept pulling down. And after reviewing the movie, we will understand that he did not want to be his true self to be seen. So once you learn that the tethers live underground, and they never really formed a verbal language like English. So they did grunts and moans. They had certain quirks or mannerisms about themselves. And I believe he knew that they would know. So he kind of put that mask on to hide himself. So they wouldn't figure that out. So that mask was a clue. So let me try to continue in order. So they go the father, Gabe, is speaking to Adelaide, and Gabe is trying to convince Adelaide to go to the beach. And he says, ever since grandma died, Jason has not been the same. And then he continues to talk, and he would just tell Adelaide, "Well, if we go to the beach, this will brighten his spirit." So we assume that because Jason's grandma had died, this is why he's a little different. This is why he's odd. But now on further exam, no, he's different because he is a tether. and that's why he's acting weird. So we go to the now they make it to the beach. He's on the beach, and so the family meets up with their friends. And I'm sorry I don't remember the friends' names except for the mother, which was Kitty. But so it's their friends are a white family. They have a mom, a father, and two twin daughters. So of the two twin daughters, one I think flips or something, and she kicks over this mound that Jason was building. And she was like, "What are you doing?" And he was like, "I'm digging tunnels." So this the one of the twins say to Zora, "Your brother is weird." And Zora says he just hasn't been able to focus lately. So they're at the beach, and normally children build castles, but he is digging instead. And so you have to, like I said, after watching that, he was a tethered tunnels is where he lives. So really, he was building his home. So that was a clue. When Adelaide was putting him to bed, he recognized the time, and the time was 11:11. 11:11 was used throughout the movie. It was in so many places. You had a homeless man that carried the sign 11:11. You can say that when they walked across the beach and they looked down at their shadow, that's 11:11. When the tethered first come into the house, they separate. You have Gabe and Zora on one side, and you have Red and Pluto on the other side. That's 11:11. 11:11 has symbology everywhere. But Jason pointed to the Adelaide, the mom was putting Jason to bed, and he recognized. He said, "Look," he looked at the clock, and the time was 11:11. And so after seeing it, like Red had made this plan. Red made this plan, this Hands Across America, and you have to assume like she was reading this Bible, and that scripture has stood out to her, because she did at some point talk about God brought us together or whatever. And I believe that 11:11 is the time that they came up. That's what I believe. And I think that's why he recognized that clock at that time. Like, look, that's the time they came. They were supposed to. This plan is going in effect. Was also 11:11. So that was the clue. Jason. I'm trying to think. So he recognized the time. And I believe that's it. Oh, well, we think that he went to the when he went to the bathroom, I think that's when a lot of people thought that this switch occurred. But this switch with Jason did not occur when he went to the bathroom. The switch occurred last year. And you had to follow the dialogue between Adelaide and Gabe. So, we are like I already spoke on Gabe's saying that grandma died and trying to get Adelaide to go to the beach, but they also spoke. Zora also spoke on, well, Gabe, you got locked in the closet last year and we couldn't find you for a long time, and so that definitely could have been a time when Jason was switched. That the time that he went missing last year and they couldn't find him, and when they found him, he was locked in the closet. They also mentioned there was a fire at the home the last year. So grandma has died last year, a fire occurred last year, and Jason went missing for an extended period of time last year. And I believe when that is actually when the switch occurred. So the Jason that we see the whole movie has been switched from last year, and you had just to follow the dialogue between the parents to put that together. But definitely the look that Jason and Adelaide have at the end. But to top it off, in the ambulance ride, Jason had a rabbit, and we find out at the end, we find out in the movie that the tethered only food source was a rabbit. So I thought that was funny that he had grabbed him a rabbit and possibly he was going to eat that rabbit later. So there's many YouTubers that have already come to this conclusion. I guess you can never say it's facts. It might just be film theory, but we believe Jason is definitely tethered. But what many people are not discussing is that the father and the sister too had been switched at some point. So I'm gonna get into that. So Jason would have been technically Red's son, and Pluto would have been Adelaide's son. And a lot of people can't understand because Pluto has the burn marks on his face. And he is crawling like an animal. And so now you have to think about how the tethers work, because a lot of people had a little confusion. The tether and the human share one soul. And we kind of assume in the movie, because we see that the humans are doing whatever on top and that the tethers is mimicking at the bottom, that the human has the control. But it's not true. If that was true, Adelaide would have never been able to conquer over Red. So the truth is, whoever realized that they have the power, they have the power. So that was a point in the movie where Jason was in that closet with Pluto and he was putting his hands up and Pluto was putting his hands up. I believe that's the point where Jason realized that he had the power. And then later on, Jason was able to control Pluto and back him up into that fire to kill him. So Pluto would have been the original human boy. So let's go into that. Well, why does he have these burns on his face? I think there's kind of two theories about that. The one I did not come up with is maybe Pluto was playing with his magic trick the last year, and he started the fire because it's kind of sparks. Maybe he started the fire and got burnt. That is a theory. But my theory is that once Jason took the control over Pluto, that he was torturing him. The person in power controls the weaker person. And so the weaker person has to mimic the person that's the more powerful. Jason was flicking that magic trick the whole time. Every time Jason flicked that magic trick, Pluto had to follow suit underground, but instead he was flicking real matches. So he was burning himself multiple times. And then I have to assume at some point Red got tired of Pluto burning himself, and that's why he got that white mask for Pluto, so he could stop burning his face. That makes sense. Jason was a monster. He was torturing Pluto with that magic trick. He was not clueless to the fact of what that magic trick did. He knew that Pluto would have to be mimicking him, and he was torturing him. So this will make sense of why Adelaide, when she got out of the car, she kind of reached out to Pluto. And if you paid attention, Pluto was snapping his finger. He was trying to tell Adelaide, "I'm your son. I'm your son," because he couldn't speak because his mouth was burnt. So that was his thing. And then, he never did drop the match. He never did drop the match. So he didn't really and he was the only one that never harmed anybody. Pluto was the only one. So why was he on the ground acting animalistic? Because the tether and the human, they have distinct character traits. And the boys were animalistic. Even Jason, he wanted to play and scare his sister. It's kind of like a little boy that wanted to be a dinosaur, roar all the time, using their imagination. So Jason was using his imagination and had the animal thing on his head. So Pluto would also have the same animalistic desire, and he was living that out underground with these tethers, crawling and climbing and whatever. So that's why the real boy would have been on the ground like he was, and that's why he has the burns on his face, but he was the original boy. Okay, so I hope that you got that clear, and that has been kind of proven, like I said, by other YouTubers. But let's talk about Zora and Gabe. Now, the clues, after the second time watching it, I really got the clues that Zora and Gabe had been switched. So I'm gonna start with Zora. Zora, she's supposed to be an original daughter, and Ombre was her counterpart. Ombre was the tether. In the movie, the parents discuss, when they were in the car, they discuss about Zora. This would be a perfect opportunity for you to run when we get to Santa Cruz. And Zora says, "I quit." And they're like, "What? You quit?" She was like, "Yes." And they were just like, "You love to run. Why would you quit?" And they continued to discuss that. Later on, sitting at the family table, They also they continued to talk about her running and how they believed in her and they thought her to be an Olympian. Now, let's go to the time when she's going to actually run. So Red is doing her monologue and she tells Zora, little girl, run. And so we see Zora run. The technique in her movement of her legs was not indicative of a runner. She like pit patted. She was not a sprinter at all. And that just did not go with the thought that Zora was supposed to be a runner, so much so they thought she could be an Olympian. That is clue. That is a clue that that is not the original daughter, that she is the tethered. I can imagine that the original daughter was on top running fast, and maybe the tether underground may be in a position like maybe a small room or somewhere she was stuck. We know you can't say, but somewhere where she couldn't actually run. And so she would have been much slower. She would have been much slower. And that makes sense to why Ombre is fast. Ombre's the original daughter. She was so fast that when Red told Zora to run, she gave Zora a 3-minute head start before she let Ombre run. And Ombre was so fast that she not only caught up to her, she outran her and was in front of her. So the speed of Zora and Ombre were clues that there was a switch. The second thing about Zora that was very important to me, was the line she said, the government puts fluoride in the water to control you. Now that to some people may be a clue about the government, just that, this movie has something to do with the government. But I looked at it deeper about her having her phone. She was obsessed with that phone. Even when she met on the beach with her 2 friends, she didn't really connect with them. She sat to herself and she was on that phone. So that was the line, about the government, to me, was more of she was researching, digging. A lot of people are, think about, they say, well, the government is putting immunizations to, putting medicines in you to cause cancers and stuff like that. And I feel like that line was showing, she was studying. And, if she was a tether and then now she has this phone, she is observing the world through this phone and everything is fascinating and everything is interesting. And that's why she couldn't put the phone down through the whole movie, because she was originally the tether. Now we could talk about when her father Gabe pulled out the boat. You had to look at her wardrobe. When he was showing them the boat, she had on a t-shirt, a jacket, stretch pants, and boots with fur. They went to the beach. It was hot. That was not an outfit for summertime. That was weird. So that was a sign. She had a white rabbit shirt on. And if you watch a lot of movies, you got Alice in the Wonderland and The Matrix, you follow the white rabbit. So that was a sign to me for him to say, pay attention to Zora. And she also had her later shirt that she had on said Tho, and Tho meant rabbit in Vietnamese. So now he has put 2 shirts on her that represent rabbit, and most importantly, the white rabbit. So that makes me, when I watched it the second time, pay a little bit more attention to Zora. Zora was the tether. That's why she didn't have the speed, and Ombre was the real girl. So this is why when Zora kills Ombre, she sends her flying off of the car. Adelaide jumps out the car and go checks on Ombre, because Ombre would have been Adelaide's real daughter. That would have been her real daughter. That's why she didn't kill her. After these things are chasing you and have attacked your children, I think human nature is, if something's dying and it's just been attacking you, that you would go ahead and finish it off. But she did not finish it off. She peacefully watched her die. Ombre was Adelaide's original daughter, and Zora was switched. Okay, so that was, I believe I mentioned all the clues for Zora. So I'm going to go on to the father. The father, Gabe. The major clue for Gabe is his shirt. I believe that Mr. Peel put everything in that movie, and it all had purpose. You had to. That's why the movie was so good. You had to pay attention to everything. So Gabe had on a Howard shirt, which would make me think that this is an educated, smart black male. But he was dumb the whole movie, and that was the clue. The Howard shirt representing educated, and his acting, I mean, him being dumb throughout the movie, that was the clue. So let's get to it. At the beginning, they say, I got 5 on it. You know, they were singing the song was playing, and Jason says, well, what does that mean? And Zora says, it's about drugs. Gabe said, no, it's not. He's like, it's dope. It's just a dope song. Don't do drugs. You can kind of some people play it off like, oh, he didn't want to tell his song is about drugs, or it was a slight sarcasm. But to me, no, he did not know that movie was about drugs. I mean, I said the movie. He didn't know that song was about drugs, and that song definitely was about drugs. So that is a clue. He wasn't smart he didn't get that. The second thing, when the tethers finally broke into the house, and Red got done, she was talking, he just interrupted her like, what do you guys want? He was like, you know, we can take the car and we can go to the ATM and I can get you money. And Zora like, Dad, shut up. He didn't see that this was not an ordinary robbery, that these things were looking the spinning image of themselves. He was clueless. He didn't see this at all. So that was another testament to his dumbness. Yes. Okay, so now we can go on to after they went now they've ran from that house and they went to their white friend's house, and the white friends are dead, and they have killed their they have killed the white tethers. So now it's time to have some decision making. And Gabe is like, well, you know what? We could just stay here, and we got everything we need. And Adelaide is like, no, we're not staying here. What are you talking about? We're getting far away from here. You have to imagine if Gabe was the tether, he was underground and he was lacking. And this house was everything. Now I had to go back to talking about the character traits. They had specific things. The father was very materialistic and he envied his white friend. So even though, because he was so stupid, but Gabe had been a tether underground, this house was high tech. It had Ophelia, which was like an Alexa, I guess, throughout the house playing music, and it just had everything that if you never had anything, like he was like, we got food, I got everything I need in this house. There's a boat outside, we don't need to leave. He was dumb. He was clueless to what was the reality of what was going on. And that was, like I said, that was a clue. So, also a big clue is his tether, or who's supposed to be a tether, which is Abraham, which I believe was the real human man. Now, Abraham takes him outside. She tells him to take him out. Tells him to go outside, and he drags Gabe. Abraham has scissor in his hand, but he didn't stab Gabe. He punched him. Then he further took him to the boat and put Gabe under a tarp. Like I said, the materialism. Abraham was the human, but he wanted to drive the boat. I think that's what that was about. He wanted to drive the boat. And maybe he didn't have it in him to kill. Maybe he didn't have it and that will make sense of why Abraham, who's supposed to be a tether, did not kill Gabe. Because he was the human, and maybe he did not have it in him to kill. And we see that eventually Gabe does kill Abraham. So I think that was a big clue right there. But what's kind of sealed the deal for me was this flare gun. At the beach, when he was talking to his white friend, like he had just bought a boat, his white friend was going over a checklist, like, did you buy this? He was like, yes. He said, did you buy that? Yes. And then the white friend said, did you get a flare gun? And Gabe didn't respond. He said, the white male said, I knew you didn't get it. I knew you would forget the flare gun. So let's go to the white tether is now chasing Gabe. And Gabe walks back to his white friend's boat. And he's trying to create a plan that he's going to shoot this tether with the flare gun. And so he shoots the flare gun off, and it's like a dud, and he go, oh. Gabe is a tether, and he didn't know what a flare gun was. All he knew was he remembered his white friend had a flare gun on his boat. He thought a flare gun was a real gun, and that's why he was disappointed when it was a dud. And then he realized he had to actually battle that tether or whatever. So that was sealed the deal. The stupidity of the father and the symbology of the Howard University shirt makes me realize that there was a switch. Now, people will say, well, why would they be acting in the role of a tether if they're the human people? If you get switched and you got down underground with the tether and you see they're about to go have an uprise and kill all the humans, I would pretend to be a tether too. I would have had that red jumpsuit on with them gold scissors also. So it makes sense. It makes sense that Zora and Gabe would go and pretend because they see what's finna occur. They know what's going down. So that all makes sense to why would they go ahead and be in character when they probably had to adapt so they wouldn't be killed when they were underground. So they learned the noises and sounds. You know, you got a real father and a real daughter. I'm pretty sure he helped coach his daughter to go ahead and pretend and how to act crazy like these things because this is survival for them. They have to survive. So that makes sense. So you have Gabe being a tether. You have Zora, which was the tether. You have Jason, which was the tether. And Adelaide, which was the tether. And then so everybody was switched. Everyone was switched. Now, I really don't have a concrete reasoning of why there was a switch. I can kind of speculate that maybe Red did some switching. You know, she switched them. Maybe she was kidnapping them one at a time. Maybe she was kidnapping them, and she did the switch. I don't know, but it was just so many clues to me. That not only Jason, like I said, because many of us came to the conclusion that Jason was switched, but that whole family was switched at some point. And I just wanted to make a video, and I hope I didn't I think I didn't leave anything out. But if you would like this video, and please comment if you agree, and comment if you disagree, but please just say how you feel about the movie or how you feel about my perception of it because I would like to see some feedback and just some other thoughts, especially if you have a like mind like me. So thanks for listening, and goodbye.